Wow, you want to talk about the shocker of the year? Vanderbilt gives Alabama the rat poison. They lost 60 straight games to top 5 teams prior to this win. And this was an incredible performance by Vandy on all phases. I mean, Clark Lee outcoached Kalen Boer. Vanderbilt dominated Alabama in every way possible in this game, regardless of what the final score shows. 40-35 is the final. Vandy really gave it to Alabama this afternoon. Their quarterback, Diego Pavia, to me, is a top 5 quarterback in the 2025 NFL draft. Nobody has been talking about how good Pavia has been for Vandy this year. And this afternoon, he outplayed Jalen Milroe. We got to be straight up honest about it. He completed over 80% of his passes, only threw 4 incompletions, 2 touchdowns for 252 passing yards. He had 57 rushing yards as well. It just seemed like this dude was inevitable. No matter what Alabama tried to do defensively, they could not find a way to stop Diego Pavia. And defensively, Vanderbilt, although they did give up a lot of big plays, they came through in the biggest moments when it mattered the most. They shut down Jalen Milroe. They held him to only 2 touchdowns, and he only had 10 rushing yards as well. This was a great performance by Vandy's offense, defense, their coaching staff. And when you look at some of the key stats to show you how dominant Vandy was, how about this? Time of possession. Vandy outgained Alabama in that department. 42 minutes and 8 seconds to Alabama's 17 minutes and 52 seconds. They also outgained Alabama on third down. They converted 12 out of 18 of their third down attempts. Alabama only converted 3 out of 6 of their third down conversion attempts. And they also won the turnover battle. No turnovers. Alabama had 2 of them. And they outgained the Tide on the ground 166 yards to only 84. These are numbers that you normally aren't accustomed to hearing Vanderbilt put up against a team that has the kind of talent that Alabama possesses. Today, Vanderbilt, they look like the team that had the same amount of 5 and 4 stars as what Alabama did. And this isn't just your typical upset, when you got a team that kind of gets lucky. Like Vanderbilt with this win showed that they no longer are a team that you look at on your schedule and you say, yeah, it's a guaranteed win playing Vandy. Because Diego Pavia has completely changed everything with this Vanderbilt program. They also brought in the offensive coordinator that he was with when he was at New Mexico State last year when they went on the road and completely embarrassed Auburn. This is an embarrassing loss for Kalen Boer. Because last week I came out and said that this dude has already become the best head coach in college football. He has taken the throne for Kirby Smart. I got to go back on those statements. Yes, it is only one game. There's a lot of ball left to be played this year for Alabama. I don't think this loss defines them as a team, but it definitely is a really embarrassing loss, and one of those losses that you just can't let go. Changes have to be made. They obviously have to change up their scheme on defense, because when Vandy's able to come in and just push you around defensively, you got schematical problems. Alabama, they just got dominated physically. They got outcoached. I'm lost for words about how to describe this win for Vandy. Because for Clark Lee, you probably weren't going to get fired after this year. You've done a pretty good job at Vandy so far. It's just that, there's been a lot of close games that Vandy hasn't been able to come through and get the win in. Like when they lost in overtime to Missouri, this was one of those wins now that you look at Clark Lee and you say, you forever should be Vanderbilt's head coach. Nobody's ever going to forget this win. This, without a doubt, is the biggest win in the history of Vanderbilt football. You lost 60 consecutive games against top 5 opponents. You have been the doormat of the SEC since you first entered this conference. You know, to get a win at home against Alabama is a statement win for Clark Lea's resume. And moving forward, I think it's fair to say that Vandy could be a 7-8 win team this year. You know, as surprising as how it sounds to hear that, you know, this isn't the first time Vandy has had a solid team. You know, when James Franklin was coaching this program, he had a lot of success here. When you can get the right head coach who can build a good culture, that's how you can have success in Nashville with this program. And moving forward for Alabama, on the other hand, this loss doesn't change how I feel about this team. Alabama most definitely still is more than capable of being able to win the SEC title, win a national championship. There's a lot of ball left to play. This is a reality check for Alabama. You know, you were riding off that emotional high from beating Kirby Smart in Georgia last week. And Kirby Smart, you know, he said that Alabama played a great game. You know, they had some missed opportunities that they weren't able to take advantage of to complete the comeback. And Kalen Boer, you know, Monday morning, he put a lot of rat traps all over Alabama's facilities. Like, he was trying to emphasize the message to his team that, hey, don't get caught up in last week's win because it's a completely new week. You can never overlook any team in the SEC, especially when you got to go and play them on the road. And no matter what the message Kalen Boer was trying to deliver to his team this week leading up to this game, it obviously didn't work. And Vandy, they gave you that rat poison. You drunk it, and you fell victim to it today. This just was an incredible upset. I'm not going to say that Alabama's a fluky team, they're frauds, because they're not going to be the only team that ends up losing a game or two this season. I don't think there's going to be any team in the SEC that runs the table this year. And you are going to have a lot more upsets coming after this. Alabama isn't going to be the only elite team this year that suffers a shocking loss. Due to the NIL and the transfer portal, you're now starting to see the gap close between teams like Alabama and squads like Vandy. Decades ago, you never would have thought Vanderbilt had a chance to win a game like this. But this year, though, with how well Diego Pavia has played, you know, Vanderbilt, you got to give them respect. And a lot of my homeboys are really upset with Kalen Boer. They want his head on a platter right now because they took Alabama to win and cover the spread as well. And I was telling them, man, I'll probably leave this game alone because, you know, it was a good amount of doubt in my mind that Alabama was going to struggle in this game. I wasn't expecting them to dominate Vandy because of the rat poison analogy that Nick Saban always brings up. And regardless of how much I love Kalen Boer, you know, any team is capable of being able to fall victim to the moment that Alabama was caught in with their win last week against Georgia. And with this loss now, you got to make some changes. You got to reflect. You got to look at yourself in the mirror. You got to take this thing on the chin like a man. And you got to be able to, you know, you got to be able